On Friday, May 30th, about 30 or so members of our First Church community hurried to the ICE building a few blocks from here after we got an urgent call from Voces de la Frontera asking us to show up for a deportation hearing. Yesenia Ruano, a Milwaukee public teacher's aide and a mother of twin 9-year-old girls, had been called in despite having a spotless record and being an upstanding contributing member of the Milwaukee community. Yesenia had been living in the United States for 14 years at that time. Her girls were born here. She taught kindergarten students. She owned her own home. She paid taxes. She received 0 public benefits. She came to the United States to escape gang violence in El Salvador. Her brother had been killed by a gang, and she had been trafficked. She had applied for a T1 visa, which is granted to victims of human trafficking, but that visa was still in process when she was called in. If you were going to paint a picture of someone who deserves to be here, it would be Yesenia. In every way, she's a benefit to the community, and she was really needed to be in the country for her safety and for her children's safety. She's also just about the sweetest person that you could meet. That morning before her hearing, Yesenia spoke softly to the crowd, telling us that she was hopeful, that her biggest worries were for her daughters and her students. It was May 30th, and she worried about all the kids being able to finish the school year without disruption in their lives. There was a lot of news coverage of Yesenia's case. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the Wisconsin Public Radio, the Wisconsin Examiner. And yet, as my colleague, the Reverend Elizabeth Wynn says, sometimes the horrors are news, and sometimes they're family. On that sunny morning in May, I watched Yesenia's story become family for our church members. There were maybe 60 or so people there when Yesenia walked into the ICE office after we stood and witnessed to her steadfast hope that she would be able to stay here safely with her children, that they would be safe and together. We witnessed her faith and her belief in the goodness of people, and we prayed with her, and then we watched her walk through the glass doors. And then we waited, like you do in all these stressful situations. We watched and we waited. We marched in a circle. We sang somewhat badly. If you would be interested in being part of an a cappella group that sings in these sorts of situations, please talk to Tristan. We chatted, we prayed. People were hopeful. Yesenia's T1 visa was in process. She was clearly a law-obeying and contributing member of the community. A couple of hours after she went in, Voces leaders got a message from Yesenia's lawyers and gathered us round to read it. Yesenia had been ordered to self-deport in 5 days. A ripple of horror moved through the crowd, and even some of the tough long-term organizers were visibly shaken. Many people were teary. Christine, Voces' ED, asked me to pray, and then someone else asked if we could sing so that when Yesenia walked out, it wouldn't be to silence. So we sang, shakily, and without enough shared songs among us, but we sang and we sang and we sang. And when Yesenia finally emerged from the building, there was a small circle of loving and shaky hearts there to witness her and say, "We are here, even in the worst of it." After her lawyer explained everything and said that he would be applying for an emergency stay of deportation, Yesenia gathered the strength to speak to us again. Through tears, she told us that she was going to stay strong and said, "My faith, it's inside of me. God is with me. You are with me." And we cheered for her, we clapped for her, we cried for her, we hugged her, and then we all went home, heartbroken. One of our church members wrote me a long letter that day about how the morning had changed her. That letter, it was a lament, but it was also a testimony, because she became a witness that morning. She took on some of the pain and she held it herself. She held a piece of the horror, and in so doing, she became one of the pieces of human goodness that Yesenia got to hold on to. She was one of the pieces of love that Yesenia said, "You are with me" about. A piece of love that is still moving through this world, that is larger than this wrong. Really showing up, getting close to the people in our community who are suffering, who are grieving, who are in the most danger, building community that draws the circle wide and then wider still. It's a risk. It's a vulnerability. It risks heartbreak. It risks co-suffering. The losses hit different when the story is not news, but family. The person who wrote me that letter of lament is not the only person who was changed that day. The group who gathered that May morning became personally connected to a family that was being torn from their home, to a mother and her children. The group that gathered bore witness and took pieces of the story on themselves. Some Unitarian Universalists say when we pray, we don't pray to change the world, we pray to change ourselves. Sometimes when we show up to bear witness, the witness changes only the people who show up, and that's enough. Because that's the love that carries on and carries through, even when we don't change the biggest systems in that moment. Building beloved community, really getting close to people, opening ourselves up and letting people in and exposing our own lives to them, it's a risk. It risks our hearts. It risks loss. But it's also the only thing that helps. It's what's necessary in this moment. This kind of community building, it changes individual lives, it helps people hold on to hope through the horrors, and it does actually long-term change the world. There are going to be finite stories of loss. There are going to be moments where the bad news feels overwhelming. But the love is larger than that, and it goes beyond that. It's a long-term process of building the world that we dream about. I'm sure you're familiar with the fight, flight, or freeze response to stress. Maybe you've experienced some of those things in recent days. I know I have noticed all three of those responses come up in my own body over the summer. But I want to tell you that scientific research has discovered that the fight or flight response is not the only instinctual human response to stress. In 2000, University of California psychology professor Shelley Taylor documented another instinctual stress response in human beings. She called it tend and befriend. Since then, a number of studies have shown that human beings and other animals too have an instinctual response to tend and befriend when under stress, to connect with one another and caretake each other as a natural, healthy stress response. Even in our biological responses, we have options to turn towards one another. For most of us, tend and befriend is a stress response that not only builds community, but also makes us feel stronger and braver and wiser. We are actually stronger together. Almost all of the community organizing wisdom that is coming out right now is fight fascism by getting to know your neighbor. Fight fascism by having a potluck. Unitarians, this is our moment. The good organizing wisdom right now is that we have to build communal networks and resilience in community through mutual aid and shared knowledge and through shared resources. In this process, fear is normal. It's a normal human response to stress. It's normal to be afraid based on what's happening in our country right now. It is objectively logical. I'm afraid regularly, but fear is an emotion. And because it's a feeling, not a reality, it's something that we can learn how to be in relationship with. We can learn to regulate our fear by honoring it, listening to it without becoming it. We can make the space for it to be real, and then make choices that are not based in fear, that are not based in that back brain, that amygdala, lizard brain, they call it sometimes, and are rather based in our neocortex, our logical brain, our front brain. Once we have said, okay, fear, I hear you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for that good information. We can come back to ourselves and ask the questions that matter, like, what am I willing to risk? What is at stake? How much threat is there really in this situation? And who is most at threat? What am I willing to risk? In one of our church teams recently, we did a risk discernment exercise where a group of about 10 of us located ourselves on a risk aversion continuum. And I'm going to have us all do it together here now with a range of risk aversion from over here on this wall. I hate risk. It makes me want to throw up. Can we maybe put a helmet on that baby? That's this side of the room. To over here, I love risk. It's super fun. Let's go jump out of some airplanes together. Let's take risks together. So if you're in the put a helmet on the baby, you're gonna wave your hands towards this side. If you're in the let's jump out of airplanes, you're gonna wave your arms to this side. So everybody start in the middle, put your hands in the air, and on the count of 3, point them to where you are on the risk continuum, okay? 1, 2, 3, point. Okay, cool. We see where we're at. Great. Everybody put your hands down. Okay, So now think about what happens for you and your risk aversion if you are taking the risk for someone else. If you're taking the risk for your child, or your spouse, or your neighbor. All right, let's put our hands in the air. Helmet baby, jump out of airplanes. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, interesting. Okay, put your hands down. One last question. What happens to your risk aversion if you are taking the risk with someone else? Someone that you trust. All right? So, helmet on baby, jump out of an airplane, hands in the air, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay. We are stronger and braver together. We will take risks in different ways when we take them with people we trust, and we will take risks in different ways for people we love. So what does that say about risk-taking and relationship? If we really want to be in solidarity with the most marginalized people and resist fascism in the ways that are required, which will require risks, dear ones, we have to be in relationship. We have to build belonging with each other in ways that build enough trust with the people we're doing the risk-taking with, and with communities that are facing the most threat, such that we're willing to make those kinds of risks together in solidarity to resist fascism. The more we build belonging, the more we build community, the more we create those networks of trust and resilience, the more capacity we have for effective, powerful, loving, even sometimes fun, I promise, resistance. Sometimes this means risking heartbreak. That means practicing loving more, expanding the strength of your heart, doing the muscle work to be able to love big enough to say, I am here in the worst of it. I love you in the worst of it. And it means heartbreak, but that's always what love means. As mortal human beings, that's always what love means. My heart breaks every single time one of you is suffering. My heart has broken hundreds of times due to the great privilege and honor of being part of community. I am so grateful to be part of a community that is intertwined in one another's lives. And it means that I love with you, and I celebrate with you, and I scream and dance with joy with you, and I listen to the band with you, and we have a great time together. It also means that we grieve with one another. Our job as a people right now is to double down on community and belonging, to double down on drawing the circle wide and wider still, to double down on love, so that we might show up with Amanda's courage, with Yesenia's courage, so that we might show up and say, my faith is inside of me, love is with me, you are with me, I am here in the worst of it. We build the muscle for this kind of practice through showing up. We engage in practice in community. That's what church is for. We are here to do the spiritual practice with one another of being human, of tending and befriending, of building belonging together through radical welcome, of showing up with one another, of creating real connections. We're going to intentionally turn towards one another, tend and befriend as a stress response, but also we're going to share our joy with one another. We're going to ride all of the waves of life together. Within our larger community, you'll see these smaller, lifelong friendships show up, like those in Amanda's story. Community that holds people in the worst moments of their lives. And every day, new people arrive here, new people who show up not knowing anyone, who need to be built into the community, and that is all of our work. Dear ones, if you are here for the first time today, know that hundreds of other people have arrived here for the first time, just like you, wondering if they might find their people. You can. You can find your people here. But let us all remember that it is not only the act of finding that matters, it is also the act of building. And that is all of our responsibility. And we build belonging with and for one another by showing up again and again in the celebrations and joys and delights. Please, yes, bring your cleverness, Ufta. Bring your laughter and your music and your dancing, but also bring your sorrows and your vulnerabilities and your fears. Loss is real. Heartbreak will happen. But the truth is that we're stronger, we're braver, we're wiser, and we're better together. And in building community, exposing ourselves to the risk of heartbreak, we gain the great privilege of love, of belonging, of one another. When we create community where we say we and know who we mean, and each day we mean one more, we change people's lives and we change the world. This community, the act of building it, resists fascism because it creates the alternative in real time. It makes real the promise of love in action. It practices showing up for one another and saying our differences make us stronger and better. All of the organizing wisdom says that resistance has to be rooted in local communities. This is where we grow strong enough to protect our neighbors, through weaving together our economic and material and knowledge and spiritual expertise with one another. After Yesenia received that 5-day deportation order, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel ran a front-page article the next day about what happened. Multiple local representatives got involved on her behalf. And when her lawyers filed for that emergency stay of deportation, she was granted a few extra weeks. It wasn't much, and it wasn't what we wanted, but some movement happened in those horrific bureaucratic wheels. And Yesenia and her family had a little more time to make plans, a little more time for her girls to finish the school year, and for her students to be with her through the end of the school year. Every little bit of showing up, every little bit of love counts right now. The way that you show up, whether it's on the streets or in the classroom, teaching English with the immigration group, or working to welcome trans folks fleeing violence in other states, whether it's cooking food or tutoring kids. It's the showing up in love and with love and building belonging in an ever-widening circle that matters. Amen, and blessed be.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wide still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side.
We're standing side by side. We're standing side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side.
circle, draw the circle wide.
Dear ones, may we build belonging in ever-widening circles, strong enough to say, love is inside of me, brave enough to say, I am with you in the worst of it. May we be part of a love that is larger than any finite human error, than any moment in history. May it be so. Will you rise in body or spirit for